Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ARML. This is Tuesday, the 14th of March. This is Korak of a B2 match here. Maybe some A2 later. I'm joined by Edwin. Edwin, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Doing pretty well. We do have an interesting match here. The question is who's going to demote, who's going to promote. I think the most obvious one here is Jonathan, who's currently in the south seat here. He's making a play to take over this division because the other two people that are near the top of B2 will be at the same table. So if they end up kind of fighting it and splitting it up, then maybe Jonathan can get that guaranteed promotion spot and maybe even win the division here.
Yeah, and the other thing being that unfortunately for us, we had a Tenho outage last week that kind of prevented some games from being played. So if you're looking at the standings here and you're seeing a variety of number of games being played, it's because they've had to reschedule. And unfortunately, with people's schedules all being different and everything, that's taking a little while for those games to be rescheduled. But they're slowly getting their way through. But it also means that some people might have a lot more games to play than some of the others around here.
Right. Also, note at this table, Brian is making a play for a promotion spot. Was pretty close to the plus minus zero going in, but had a couple of very strong results in the first two games of this session yesterday. And Christine is pretty close there to the bottom, looking to get out of those demotion spots. And the last one, of course, is Yuangchi, who is sitting right on the cut line, but certainly plenty of space to go.
And as you notice, Yonshi has 20 games, so when they play two more here, that means they still have two games that they have to play from their prior round due to the outage. And for Christine, when she finishes, she'll be at 20 out of 24. So she actually still has to play her fifth round in I believe it's an entirety. So, there's definitely a lot more. There's definitely more chances than just these last two games. But even still, we want to get off to a good start here too.
And speaking of a good start, we have a start here. That's a pretty good dealer hand here with the double ace. Couldn't go Honitsu. You definitely call that. Take your two Han. And the question is, how greedy do you want to be? And that definitely looks like I'm hedging towards some real value here. I like it. On the right, we have Jonathan with a Pinfu hand, maybe an Itsu in pin, but overall decent hand. Across the way, we have, I don't know, what do you do with that one? Itsu's possible, Honitsu's possible, not even the 1, 2, 3 Sanjuku's possible. We also have that floating Hakudora. And on the left, we have possibly Peiko in pen. Feels generally like a Tanya type hand, though. And there goes the North Call. And this definitely is feeling like Honitsu.
It certainly is. You may have, depending on how everybody else is playing at the table, whether or not they actually care about your Honitsu or not, you might have to settle for something else, but it looks like Christine will go full bore for the Honitsu here.
There's such a big value. Well, now you at least get tempted to go there. Maybe even cut the one so here, because that would give you completed blocks. You do have the value, but no, just we're going for it.
But let's see what happens with the other players if they're just gonna not care and try to finish their hands before she can.
Well, that assumes that you're going to get more draws. And meanwhile, I've seen a couple calls across the way. And I see a Dora fall into this hand here for the dealer. Will be kind of hard to use, maybe as the pair later, though. But the problem is who's ever going to throw it. And interesting, you see one also across the way. There's also a Honetsu that might get kind of stuck. We'll see how this develops.
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't really disguise it as much else because you've discarded terminals. Otherwise, maybe you could have thought that you could have disguised it as some type of like Chanta or something. But at this point, it's pretty much a Honitsu. So now the other two players are like, well, what do I drop? Do I drop Manzu, Sozu, or just neither and just try to survive?
Well, meanwhile, we also have a Tenpai on the right. This Dama Sanjuku waiting on Formon would just be the Sanjuku, isn't reaching. You do have the Nakasuji potentially here, though.
Does take the call here. I mean, technically, it's roughly the same if it's a Honitsu or Chinitsu Dora 2, so really it's just a matter of preference.
Right, because you're not going to get the Itsu or any other Yakuras. Oh, that is the draw dealer's looking for. This is now a dealer Hanemon, and there it
is.
Double East. Honitsu, 2 Dora, and that's 18,000 right off the bat.
And you probably had to be a little worried with Christine after she dropped the Sozu, because, I mean, she's already short on tiles, and so a Sozu discard means that she's got to be close.
Yeah, it's going to be at minimum Ishan 10. Probably felt like you get away with it, but this is also the part of being Dama is if you're going to do that, you should at least be willing to fold if you get in that situation. If you're reaching and you deal in, it's like, whatever. But regardless, we now have dealer hand here is pretty good. Not too much value here. Most likely Hatsu Dora 1. On the right, that feels like a Pinfu hand. That is Rianshun 10, but good shapes everywhere. Across the way, you can see the potential Itsu and So, but honestly, everything's a bit away. Of course, the 7 So Dora will always make things better. And on the left, we have 2 Yakuhai pairs with the East and the Red Dragon. Potentially also a 2-3-4 Sanshku in there and a floating 7 So Dora.
What do you think about Christine's 6-mon discard there? Because she could have had the opportunity for like an Ipeiko as well. Or does she just not think that the 4-7 is going to be a good weight in the end?
Well, the problem is you don't need just one. You're going to need 2 of them. This just allows you to just call the Hatsu, be done with it. And this is about the only way it ends badly is if you draw that first. But the idea here was just call the Hatsu, get the 2 Han, be done with the hand.
Yeah, in the meantime, though, Brian's already called twice, and you don't know that he's not Tenpai, but...
Well, it feels like it's a Honitsu. You just don't know which of the 2 suits it's in at this point.
Well, now he is Tenpai.
Yeah, and it's not actually what you would think it is. You know, if Tenpai on the right, this is actually 2-3 So weight. Would be Richi Nomi either way. And there's the Tenpai that we were looking for as the dealer here. It is the 2 Han waiting on 2-5 pin. There are 5 left. And as for the 2-3, we see a few discarded and a few locked in hands. The 3 So has 1 and the 2 So has 2, so 3 left.
And Christine decided to ship that 8-mon out because you'd have to have worried about a Honitsu to your left. But
it sure looks like a Mon Honitsu. I'd be very surprised if the 6 So deals in, which we know it would. Uh-oh, there's the 2. No. That's going to deal into the dealer. And that extends the lead here. As Christine is doing quite well, 52,000, hasn't even given up that first dealer turn. That definitely has a Pinfu type in here, maybe a shift later to a 5-6-7 Sanshoku, but you're kind of stuck in Kancha and hell. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fills one of them at least. So there's an obvious path forward, but it's going to feel slow no matter what you do. On the right, this is another question of how greedy do you want to get? You just go for the Chinitsu. The 2, 4, 6, 8 pin shape isn't particularly good, and it's just going to cut from that. Across the way, feels like a 1, 2, 3 Sanshku is the route, potentially also using that Dora, and maybe even going Junchun with it. And on the left, that is a Pinfu hand as well. Could definitely pull in another Dora, make use of it, but the shapes are pretty much already filled.
I'm trying to go back at Christine's discard when she discarded the Chun. I don't know what the first Chun. I don't know what she had drawn together because I was kind of following you around the table, but based upon what was kind of in her hand, I don't know if I would you have kept the Chun instead, or would you just still stripped it anyways?
Well, just saw the shapes there, and at that point, it's just a lone Chun. I don't think it really does anything.
Okay.
So I don't have a problem just getting rid of it at that point because everything else in the hand was connected. The Chun was the only lone tile. Admittedly, there were a bunch of Kanchan, but it's better than nothing. And the only tile I feel bad about is the Chun, and even then, it's not that bad. Now upgrades to a potential Ipeiko as well. But the first Tenpai is on the right. That is a Richi, Pinfu, potential Tanyao, and guaranteed 1 Dora. Waiting on 6-9. Of course, 6 will add Tanyao. The 9 would still be a pretty nice hand. Oh, just Sumo, the expensive end on Ipatsu. That's going to be, I believe, Hanemon minimum. Gets the Orador, it doesn't make a difference, but that at least puts a dent in that 18,000 deal in.
Well, I mean, not only a dent, I mean, they find themselves tied now for third, somehow, as the math works out.
Right, because there's that deal in on the second East one. But now you see Jonathan as dealer here has pretty nice shapes. I mean, probably for the 5-6-7 Sanshoku, get Tanya with that. Can always shift, use his Dora, give up Tanyao. On the right, A few pairs. Feels like a 4, 5, 6 Sanchku would be the ideal, but now you have so many pairs, you at least have to hedge the option for Chitoy. I know you've never heard of that hand before, have you?
There's speaking of which, like at our club, we now definitely have two factions: people who don't believe Cheeto is a thing, and people who adamantly believe that it is a thing. I
Well,
certainly
this
fall
is
into
the
the
type of
latter.
hand. This is one of the type of hand where like I don't want it, but if the hand goes there, I guess I'll take it. Across the way, though, that's a pin fu type hand, maybe a 3, 4, 5 Sanchku in there somewhere, especially with that 5 pin draw. And on the left, that's definitely a Tanyao hand. The question is, can you get any extra value? And I do see a 4, 5, 6 Sanchku if you get that Formon. But meanwhile, everyone kind of has a mediocre hand. No one's really bad, and no one's really good.
Yeah, if Jonathan wanted to, they could just push for Tanya Nomi and just try to go to the next hand.
Well, now you draw a Dora, so that's probably the plan here. And they have an Ishunten for Chitoy on the right. Also could choose the Peiko.
I can see where in this particular point they are hedging to try to see if they can get something different than the Cheetoy, but if you were actually to go for it, you probably would have, for instance, like kept the 8 cell maybe, and then maybe tossed like the 5 mon instead. But
we do have Tenpai on the left, Richi Pinfu Tanyo on 4-7. We see 2 4s and 2 7s, so 4 outs left. Very close, but that's not it. Instead, the winning tile falls into Jonathan's hand here. If Jonathan gets Tenpai, I imagine that comes out and deals in.
well, the only way they get saved is if they draw the last 4 and it becomes a pair. But even then, they may still pitch it compared to the 2 so, which would be the other pair they'd have to discard.
Well, the other problem is what's your safe tiles if you're going to try and fold this out. The 4-mon is now safe, but that's really all you have. And you might even just see it right here. Chi for Tenpai, throw the 4.
That's it.
And that's going to be the play. Richi, Pinfu, Johnny, and the Orador to kick this to a Mongon. That's a really nice win there for Christine, who's definitely taken back over this 50,000 lead. And now we move on to East 3 here. And this is Yongxi, who's sitting with a few pairs, floating Dora. It's one of those that's very much a wait and see type hand. Could even go
another pair.
another pair. Could even go Chinitsu with this, but it's actually Rian Shunten for Chitoitsu, so you can consider that. It could also be a regular Pinfu hand, especially if you draw like Tumon. Then you have a lot of options on the right. Pinfu type hand. The shapes aren't great though. Very just 1, 2, 3 Sanshoku. I don't like the hand that much. It's one where you're kind of hedging everything and the shapes are bad. Across the way, that feels like a 4, 5, 6 Sanchku would be the goal there with that 8-mon pair. Decent floaters. On the left, we see the East pair, and that feels like it's probably the fastest hand, and it may just be a call and go. But when you're sitting at 15,600, you may not want a call and go hand.
I mean, at the same time, you don't want other people, especially even this person, anybody else, trying to move further away from you and just making your job even harder.
Well, Jada here definitely not a believer in Chitoy because that Hatsu would be a great weight here.
Well, I don't know because that's still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pairs. So I don't know. I'm not sure as many people are really into Chitoy theory because usually Chitoy theory takes normal theory and throws it out the window.
Well, there's the punish.
Like as we said.
Yeah, so the reason I look at a hand like this and think Chitoy is everything's very disconnected. Even if you draw the 6-mon, you've kind of completed one shape, but the rest of them are awful. Specifically the 2-pin and 9-pin. This door is really never coming out. So unless you're going Chitoy, it almost feels like a Tanya. You're gonna have got the 9-pin pair and the 1-mon pair. But a bit unfortunate. And there's our Ricci across the table. That is a Ricci Pinfu Tanya Dora 1 on 3-6-pin, but the 3-6 is actually terrible. There is 1-6 left in the wall, and that's it. Tenpai on the right, also waiting on the 6-pin. Otozuka with the 9-pin, which will not work. There are 2 of those, so that would be kind of tragic to draw. Well, there's one of them. The problem is what are you going to do with it? You have to at least attempt to fold, I guess, with the 1, but that's not even particularly safe. Now we're going to see the Tenpai shifted on the right. Now Shumpon on the 6
Oh,
8
wow.
pin.
That 3-mon's an amazing draw.
Yeah, but are you ever cutting the Dora?
Yeah, that's true. But at least you're still getting closer to. Oh,
There's the backfire.
I mean, the 2's safe
It is,
considering
yeah,
you
it's
have 3
one
threes.
chance. Well, it's not safe because you are getting
Well,
kind of late at this point, but
relatively,
it's
yeah.
reasonably. Well, this is your Tenpai if you dare take it. And says, you know what? Let's not.
At least let's find a different way.
And similarly, we see on the right, breaking Tenpai. This isn't going to have anything to do with this. Doesn't want to push the 5, the 7, or the 8.
Well, they could easily get back into Tenpai with the right tile. Not that one.
And that is Tenpai. You could push the 8 there, and that's still Tenpai.
I think they're just going to. Their Tenpai is going to be.
It's just decided that it's not going to be a pin discard.
Oh my god!
So this is actually interesting. You could con to deny a draw. And this will mean that unless there's a call, we're going to see 2 more draws here. Oh, and that's one of them.
Oh, no.
The con, a complete backfire. Ichi, Sumo, Pinfu, Tanya, Dora 1, 2 aura chances, gets one of them. The con punishes it, turns this into a Hanemon. This is just an absolute roll.
Oh. I mean, you can't fault them for making the con because it's not safe. I mean, I guess unless you just full bail, right? You know?
Yeah, I think you could full bail reading the same thing that we saw on the right. That probably the show tires were looking pretty good at that point. I think all of them looked okay at there, but ouch, that definitely hurts. And dealer here, I mean, this just feels like a Honitsu / Chinitsu hand. Could potentially enchanta, but that's very unlikely. Now it's just gone. Now you just go for it. When you draw that 4, that connects to so much stuff here. On the right, we see potentially Peiko in So, also a potential Tanya. Across the way, feels like a Pinfu hand. Can always accept Dora. You do have the 2 West wins, though, so I guess it's not going to be Pinfu. You probably just call that and go. Kind of hard to use everything, but again, we're in that same situation. Where do you really want to call for a 1,000-point hand when you're sitting at 12-6?
I was trying to look over there because Yuanchi could have called that 1-pin discard on turn 3 from Jonathan for a 1-2-3 and could have possibly gone for some type of double Yakuhai Chanta type hand, but I guess to do that you'd have to discard the Sozu, which I obviously at this point they just didn't want to do.
Now we see Ishunten across the way now. Can certainly call the West into Tenpai should it come out. And there it is. I think you just take it. Now that's going to be the play. Tenpai on 2-5 so will just be the Shanomi.
Except that they're fighting for tiles that their
dealer has a bunch
is,
of.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we just have a casual Ishanten for a Shosangen. That's the type of thing that may end up scaring off the rest of the table if we see one more change or one more call. Does that 1 help? No, I don't think that helps the hand at all. You should pass that. That's when we're kind of hesitating.
Now if you draw it, it's fine.
Yeah. Okay, now interesting choice. I think I like conning the 9 so there because it's not like it does anything for this hand. It does give you another draw. Okay, well now you just cheat and take them.
This and draw. Yeah.
But I'd much prefer taking the con there, potentially getting this up to a Hanemon with some Gondora, because you know you're in excellent shape here. And if you're going to make a play towards taking over this game to get back towards that 66,000 monster on your right, those are the types of plays you need to be making.
Well, here's the problem, though, actually. That way it's not actually that great, because the 1-pin is already dead. The 2-so is being held to your right, and the only thing that's left are the 5-so, of which there are 2 live.
We're about to see how aggressive this gets played, because that 7-so is terrifying against this board, and says, nope. Well, there's our Tenpai on the right, just waiting on the 7-so here. Oh, and there's a pair up across the way. Jonathan back to
7
Tenpai.
So across the way, they're also waiting for the 2-5.
He did come out a few turns ago. It is completely safe at this point.
Sumo.
Oh my gosh,
just
so lucky
sumo.
there.
The Yakuhai ends the fear, and of course, we didn't even get to the hand that potentially could have turned into a Daisangen. But Chinitsu for dealer alone is plenty scary. Now we have dealer here sitting on that 65,700. And I mean, you can't complain about that. Christine has a pretty nice starting hand here, too, with that south pair, potential 2-3-4 Sanshku, but I think it's just a call and go, and that seems to be the play. You could even hedge towards Honitsu and Pin, but to me, that feels a long way off, and yeah, just cuts the east here, so it's not particularly useful. On the right, there are a few ways you can play this. You can brute force the Honitsu, given that north probably isn't going to be usable anywhere else. We're going to see how this gets played right now by Jonathan. Yeah, just throws the Haku, gets called across the way. That is a pretty wide Ishanten across the way. Will just be the one Han. And on the left, we see the Hatsu Pon, and that is also Ishanten, but we'll need the 7 in Mon to be able to do anything with the hand.
Yonchi was actually very reticent to call the Haku. Ended up calling the second one. Probably was trying to look for more value, considering that even though they're in second, they're still below 30, so they would like to get above 30 to at least, put a positive score on the board here. Because Christine, as it stands right now, what a plus 35.7 plus the 20s plus 55.7 puts her really close actually to getting out of demotion with this are on the border of the promotion or demotion range with that score.
I like the play of the 8 so cut there by Ongxi, because you get to potentially go on that Dora Tonki, which could be very useful in this hand. As you call for this 1,000, you didn't feel about it. We talked about the hesitation on the first Haku call. Well, now you just have to eat it. No, that is a full greed play. Will not accept the 1,000-point win. Going for the Dorotanki.
Probably figuring that maybe Pinzu's cheap and they might be able to just call it and then wait Dorotanki, or maybe it should definitely
be this should be a chi on the 2-3, cut the 2-so. Instead takes the 1-4 weight. If you chi the 2-3, you actually add a 4-6-7 weight, which I like more. Especially given what we're seeing on the board at this point. No one wants anything in upper pin. But there's a decent chance someone's using the 1 pin as a pair, which, as we can tell, is exactly what's happening.
Yeah, and actually, Jonathan is reticent to discard that 2 pin now, looking at both their left and their right.
Well, also, that hand just isn't worth fighting for. When you're in this type of situation, especially when you're in fourth, it's like, is this hand really worth playing? And the answer at this point, I mean, you're at turn 12, and you're at best going for a K10 call. We do see a pawn on the left. That is definitely a play, hoping to get the 1 pin and be able to wait on Dora Tonki. Not taking the Tenpai, would have to throw the Dora. And in this situation, I don't mind holding onto the Dora, because there's a very good chance someone is waiting on it. Particularly dealer here could very often be on it. There's the 1, and now, there it goes. The cheap, quick hand that wasn't particularly quick, because everyone was a little leery of those lower pin tiles. But it is good enough for a repeat, and has... I mean, the shapes are there, but the value isn't there quite yet. You can always accept a Dora. You go 4-5-6 or 2-3-4 Sunshu with this, but it's not a great hand. On the right, we see a couple pairs, 2 Dora. Oh, well, yeah, you have 2 Dora. This is just call and go, especially when you're sitting in 4th place. So that feels like it's basically playing itself. Across the way, you have the 1-so and 9-so pair, so kind of hard to figure out how you're going to play this. Maybe you shift later toward Itsu, but anytime you have a pair of a 1-so and the 1-so is the door indicator, it feels really bad. Here you see a chi of the 3 pin, aiming for a 1-2-3 Sanshu there on the left, maybe potentially also adding Junchan.
Take a little have worked to get to the Junchan, but certainly not out of the question.
Well, the big question is, are those one-so going to be kept, or are you going to just break from it and try to maneuver that towards more of a Tanyao type hand? Because if those are kept, that means there's only one-so left in the wall.
Well, that's
Oh
a hand
my,
over
look
there
at
on the
that
right.
hand. Yeah, I was about to say, we're going full greed. That is a toy play. And
If
there's
we
a
were going
Dora
full
draw
toy
on the
toy, I
left.
probably would have shipped the 4-pin instead, just because it seems like the Monzu, upper Monzu especially, might be a little bit more
Well,
safer to
now I think
discard,
you just
but
take whatever you can get.
yeah.
And that was probably the thinking was, I mean, we'll take it if it comes, but it's not what we're after. There is a tune. It is live at this point, so it's going to hold on to it for at least one more turn. So as you think about it, you say, oh, it's a safe tile. Then you look at it, you look at the board, and go, wait, that's not a safe tile, especially considering what's happening on the left. I look at that pawn, and I go, what the heck?
You know, they're have to make a moves here soon if they're going to try to actually complete their hand. Which, I mean, honestly, for
Ooh, well,
Christine,
there's
she
your
doesn't need
Tenpai.
to.
Oh, this may deal in now, and that's a Mongon if you throw that tune. Maybe sensing it's really dangerous, but it's not dangerous against the person you think it's dangerous to. Because that hand on the left, like, absolutely looks like it needs the tune.
You can't really imagine. Well, I guess you could imagine Dora coming out from Brian if if they're going to go for that. If they get closer to that Sancho
Yeah, but
group,
you're going to have to get to the Tenpai for that to ever come out. And even then, you may even take the awkward 1-2-2-3 shape, or even potentially if you call the last one, use it as a two-so Tonki. Just figuring it's
and
never coming out.
Christine does not want to discard that tune yet, and I'm not sure she's going to.
Yeah, I don't. Well, now you could see a con. There's the con. Tumon is the new Dora. Everyone except for the person with a con has one. Now, yeah, dealer's out of here. Says this hand isn't worth going for.
That basically puts Jonathan
I'd
down to the
absolutely call
last
that for
tune.
Tenpai. This should be a call. Just push the 6. 6 is completely safe. You don't have enough time to mess around here. I like that call. And you figure dealer looks to be folding. The pair on the left looks to be folding. So at this point, you're just playing for Tenpai payments, which would get you into second place, moving to South 2. And that's what happens. And dealer here goes, I'm sure glad I held that chew. That could have been a disaster.
Yeah, when you need as many points, you need all the points you can get, saving yourself 8,000, and then possibly another 5 on top of that if they went over 30. Certainly, it is not nothing.
Well, dealer here has a Pinfu hand, maybe also potential 1-2-3 Sanshiko with the right draws. On the right, we see the Chun has been called. It's a floating Dora, but it's going to be very hard to use once it's paired up. Across the way, nice shape in Mon with the 1-2-3-5-6-6-7. Could even potentially go Honetsu, given you also have a Haku pair. That's probably how I'd play it. It's going to be hard to make value from this end otherwise. Maybe Itsu. But ooh, the Tumon's kind of an interesting decision. I don't think it really works, though. And now you draw Dora. So now you have a whole bunch of options how to play it. On the left, that feels like a Tanyao type shape. You also have Pinfu. We'll lock in the Pinfu type shapes. You're probably going to cut the one-mon pair from it eventually anyway, though.
Yeah, it's getting harder and harder for them to incorporate the Dora for Yuanxi, but I imagine what they'll probably do is either Dora Tonki, especially if they get the 9-pin. I would imagine them actually pawning that and then shifting over to try to incorporate the Dora in some way.
Interesting that the Tumon was cut on the left. Wanted to keep the ability to just keep the relatively safer ones, but instead this does give up the potential shift to Tanyao. I definitely prefer cutting the one-mon there.
Yeah, if you don't call the if Yonchi didn't call that 9-pin, then you pretty much are guaranteed to have to give up the Dora, because what else are you going to do with a 9-pin unless you just pair up the Dora?
Well, now you just wait Dora Tonki. You don't have to worry about it.
Yep. But that's what I'm saying. Like, if they didn't call the 9-pin, they would have been stuck with the 2 9-pins and a 9. So it's like, what are you gonna do, right? You're gonna have to draw another Dora or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Then...
Well, you could upgrade it to side away, but I like the Dora Tonki a lot more. And yeah, they're fellow believer in greed. Goes ahead and keeps. It doesn't take the wider weight here. Figuring the one Han is, that's like, it's nice, but I could do a lot better. Oh, is that Tenpai across the way? No, it's not. That's 2 pairs still. And will not cut the 7-9, so good dodge there.
And I'm not sure you could... You probably can't believe it that Yonchi has like a Honitsu with the 2 and 8 pins discarded, so you probably would have to be wary of something like a Dora Tonki at this point.
Well, you've seen the 4-6 cut and then seemingly random tiles, so I think it could kind of be anything. Meanwhile, on the left, we have Riichi Pinfu. Yeah, that's definitely what it is. I kind of wonder about Dama in this situation, just because you don't need that much. You kind of keep things down, but definitely taking the better value here. That's why. That's what I get for questioning.
We didn't read the wall, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, Riichi Apatsu Sumo Pinfu boost that to 5,200. And again, if you're making a climb, those are the types of plays you need to make. Because remember, you're not just playing for first, you're playing for placement and total points.
Plus 61.5, and this puts Christine who was sitting like, what? Gosh, 70 points adrift of the place above her? This puts her within like 10. Just this one game alone right now. If the game
well, and the other part is Yuangxi's the person you're trying to catch. So it's not over yet. If you can drag someone down while you're climbing, all the better.
Yeah, actually, that does mean that it would switch places. Well, actually, yeah, no, it's at minus 11. Yeah, that would switch places at this point.
As you look at his hand, this is definitely a Kokushi attempt by dealer. I don't know that I like this. You're so far away, but hey, there you go.
But you're getting tiles. I mean, what else can you do? Like, you try to force not that, and
well, you kind of hope something else would have paired up, but okay. Well, even now, even if you still draw 3 more perfect tiles, you're middle of second row before Tenpai. But regardless, it looks like that's the way that hand is going. On the right, that is already Ishunten for what would likely be Riichi or Riichi Pinfu across the way. That is a Pinfu type hand. Could also turn into a Peiko if you draw the 3-mon. And on the left, we have the Hatsu pair and a floating Dora. Potential shifts toward Chi-Toi or even Toi-Toi with it. But I think it's just call and go unless you just never get that Hatsu.
You know, I'm trying to look out there. Let's see. There's 3 1-mons accounted for. 1 Dora accounted. 1 9-mon accounted for. You still need a north, of which 3 of those have been discarded. So actually, it's becoming very, very thin already.
Tenpai on the right. I think you just smashed the button here. That's going to be the play. Waiting on the 5-8. It is Richinomi. The 5-8 is 3 5s discarded, 2 8s in hand. So 3 left. And this is the advantage of the Kokushi hand, is you can fold safely, but chooses not to. Just jams the 2-pin into this. I think this is one where you just give up, because this is still a distance away, at least to me. If you're going to push something, the 3-so felt a lot better than the 2-pin. And 3-mon's definitely pushed there on the left, so we haven't seen... We're seeing some fighting going on here.
Well, for all the people who are not Christine, like, you're going to need... Oh, that's Chi-Toi. Is that Chi-Toi Yishanten?
Well,
no,
by breaking the 3-so, that's a fold. Well, there goes the 8. Doesn't matter. It is Richinomi, no Aura, but that does switch second and third place. And now we have Brian, his last dealer, currently in second place now. Though you don't feel very good when your second place is 18,000.
And for Christine, this, unless Brian goes on some type of run here or gets like a Mongun or something, she's feels pretty confident about finishing being the only one above 30.
Yeah, it's basically dealer. Otherwise, it's going to have to be more than a Hanemon. So, yeah, you're feeling quite good about this. Dealer has a Pinfu hand, maybe a Tanyao, especially if you draw that Forso. On the right, few pairs. Could go Toy Toy, could go Chi Toy. Distant Honitsu, but I think the setter pair-based hands are going to be better. Across the way, that's a nice little hand. You have a few pairs there as well. But you have two Dora, so you're kind of looking for an excuse to get there. And I see a call on the left of the 9-pin will potentially go Otozuke when needing the south.
Yeah, at this point, my guess is just take your negative second and just cut your losses.
Yeah, I think that's how I'd play it. At this point, you just don't have time. Because what ends up badly is if A, Jonathan has a chance to make a hand, then at best case, you're still taking a third place. Or worse, for everyone at the table, is dealer hits something. But no, okay, it's a shift towards Toy Toy. And especially cutting that 5-mon, that is a hard sellout. Now it's going to be very difficult to get this 6-mon Dora indicator. And we happen to know it's locked up on the left. On the right, rather. Because the left has 2 of them, and there's only 4 of them, the Dora indicator being the last one. Dealer just going for Tanya here. That seems like a reasonable play. Shapes aren't great. You feel you almost have to win this hand. There goes the Hakupon on the right. Could kind of sell up. Oh, there's the 6. That was the choke. The tile is going to be choked. So now actually a potential to complete this hand. Potential Toy Toy, maybe Toy Toy South.
8 should be called, yeah.
There it goes. Now Ishuntan on the right. And that's going to come out. And that's going to get pwned for sure. Tenpai on the right. And not getting super greedy, cutting the one pin, playing for Honitsu, says, you know what? Things are going pretty well. I should just take what the game's giving me.
Yeah, with everybody calling, like, it really, you just get your 1,000 and get out of here. If the people hadn't called as much, then maybe you consider it, but no. Just
you know someone has that Dora, and we know that it was across the way for Jonathan, but there's the quick deal in, and that is going to be a monster win there. 62.8 for Christine. Gonna pull out of the abyss here and now make a real play to stave off demotion in second place with not even that great a score at minus 11.6, but still a second for Brian in third. Yongshi gets a minus 18.6. And the last place here is Jonathan, who was hoping to end up playing to win the group, but this is going to knock him down quite a bit. So still in relatively okay position, but let's take a look at the standings to see if there is a promotion chance or whether that's going to fall off too.
Yeah, it looks like the standings just need to be refreshed, but I think with the numbers, she's just short in terms of like, oh wait, no, I guess not. She does pass Yuanxi. Okay, my math was wrong.
Right. So currently in the first demotion spot, but that's a heck of a lot better than it was a little bit ago. Yuanxi falls to 20th in the division. So not a great result there, but it's not like a complete disaster. Jonathan, though, still had some spare room here, but only has one more game. However, another fourth would definitely knock Jonathan out of the promotion range. And this is Jonathan's last game, has played 23. The only player at this table, I believe, to have completed all previous round games.
Yeah. And the thing is now, if you're Andrew or Chris or even Stanley now, like your position, even if you're not in the demotion range right now, I mean, you still have games to play, and this is not comfortable anymore.
Oh yeah, well, you're You're getting a little antsy here because you thought someone who was kind of doomed is no longer so. But even so, there were plenty of games left for both Guangxi and Christine. So for a whole bunch of players, they have a long way to go. On the other side, though, Brian, though, taking that second, but it was a really rough second. It kind of falls out of the promotion's potential zone, was right up there by Zhongyu. And now there's a bit of a gap opening. Definitely needs this first place to try and jump into that top five, at least give some space, because this will be Brian's last game as well.
So certainly there's going to be some sense of urgency from a couple of players at this table. It makes it a little weird because you do have other players who have games to play, so the incentives necessarily may be slightly different than it would if this was everybody's last game.
Right. This is the last game, though, for Jonathan and Brian, and those are the two I'd definitely be looking at here. Jonathan just basically needs to avoid a big hit and hope the people below don't have particularly strong sessions. But I believe that's two fourths in this table overall, including games yesterday that weren't cast. So Jonathan was sitting right up there with Harrison and Dave and is kind of losing a bit of that coverage. And Will, Steven, and Jongyu are all hoping to take advantage of it.
It looks like the game here will start in about a minute or so here. So we'll definitely be able to catch that, and like you were mentioning earlier, maybe go over to a different matchup that we don't know whether or not they're going to be playing 2 or 4. So
Well, there it goes. Fast for a minute, but we'll take it. Dealer here is Jonathan, has a couple pairs. Feels like a time you almost just want to cut the south fairly soon. Obviously, cutting the north first, but it's going to be hard to get any value out of this hand, honestly. On the right, that feels like a 789 Sanshoku, and the hand's largely going to play itself. You can use that 8 Sodora across the way. Feels like a Pinfu hand. You do have too many pair blocks here, but that 8 pin gives you a whole lot of flexibility. Any potential later shift to a 3-4-5 Sanshoku would require some draws in lower mon on the left. A floating Dora. The rest of the hand's okay, though. You do have that awkward floating 2-so, 5-so, 8-so, or the 8-so Dora. So it's not a great hand, but that 3 pin definitely gives you some other options. You can even go Itsu, Dora 2. And there goes the Tuso. And dealer here is trying to decide what to do. Goes ahead and cuts the east. This feels like a Tanya shift. The problem is going to potentially be Otozuke needing the 6-9 pin, specifically the 6. But okay, there's our call on the left. That's what I kind of expected. The 789 Sanchiku, I expected it on the right, but we'll see if both do it. And yeah, just gives it up there. Christine says, I don't need the Sanchiku. I have a Dora and reasonably good shapes. Could potentially upgrade even to an Ipeco there. And what I'm seeing there on the left from Yongxi is kind of the same thing I tend to do, which is this hand is irredeemable garbage unless I open and give myself a chance to play it. Could turn into Sanshigu, could turn into the Itsu. If you get the 6 or 2 pin, could turn into Chanta.
Junchan.
Yeah, there are plenty of ways to play that. I say that's kind of the way I play the game. Meanwhile, dealer is working towards that Tanyao, but it's still going to be really hard to get anything. The 6 pin is the very key tile.
Yuanchi is favoring the Itsu over a possible Chanta/Junchan, because if they wanted to do that, they probably would have kept the 3 and tried to work around that too.
Well, now.
Wait.
I don't like that 1 pin cut at all. I think you just cut the 5 and go on Itsu, try to pair up the Dora, be good with it, instead of just selling it out on Sanshuku. I think you've gone a long way off, and now you just feel worse about it. Yeah, just ends up cutting the 9 so anyway. Meanwhile, dealer, ooh, interesting, cuts the 4 mon last turn. Didn't want to cut the south and get to backfire on the 6 this turn. So a lot of play isn't particularly efficient, and a few backfires as a result. Meanwhile, Ishunten on the right definitely wants the speaking of plays that aren't particularly efficient, doesn't want to throw that Hatsu. It would be live here, but just doesn't want to fight for this hand. And there's the payback. Because this should be Tenpai now reaching on the 4 pin for Richi Sanshuku Dora 1. In the meantime, dealer says, you know what? I'll just do it myself and Dama on the 6 pin. And the reason for the 6 pin is that the 9 is completely dead at this point, so you don't get any benefit in doing so. And taking the normal 2-sided weight.
Yuanshi's hand is pretty much in a mess. And I mean, they are technically Ishanten, but it's...
Well, it's not going to matter. Dealer's Tenpai. I don't think anyone else is. And yeah, there's the 3,000 for Jonathan, who will certainly take it with that hand, which looked like garbage from the start, and it ended as still garbage, but at least Tenpai. And dealer now has a Pinfu Taipan, potential 5, 6, 7 Sanshku in there. On the right, that is also a Pinfu hand, potential Ipeco in Mon. You have some awkward blocks though with 1, 2, 4 pin and 1, 3. So across the way, floating Dora with a 9 pin on that, potentially Peiko in pin with the 6, 6, 7, 7 pin. But I wonder if you can shift to anything there. That feels like how the hand's going to almost always end up. Is you go for the 6, 7, 8 Sanshku, the 7, 8, 9 Sanshku. You just accept the Peiko, try to pair up Dora. When they have 3 pairs even, you can play a lot of different ways. On the left, definitely feels like a Pinfu type hand. And especially you get that 2 pin, the hand looks amazing all of a sudden.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look around to see how everybody's playing it compared to, because we were talking about some efficiencies that might have been going on in that last hand, and just trying to see where people are going this time around.
Now there's a 5, 6, 7. The first one is filled in for Jonathan. Actually, an Ishanten here would just be Richinomi, though, regardless of which side is filled. But I think the idea here is draw maybe 3 Mon and then turn this into Richi Pinfu Tanyao.
Yeah. Christine would love to find the Hatsu, but actually nobody has it, so it's kind of in the wall, and they're probably just going to be stuck until they can find it.
No, that's a bit unfortunate for Jonathan. Cuts the 3 pin earlier. Could have just cut the 1 so and hedged a bit more towards Tanyao, and the result is you got the 3 early, you're going to draw the 4 and the 2. I mean, that's just how it works. Meanwhile, we have a very interesting hand across the way. The 4 pin, boy, you wish you still had that in this hand. But now it's potentially Toy Toy. Oh, now you just go. Toy Toy, Honitsu, Tone, Dora 3, Ishunten for a Baimon.
How many people would actually... I mean, there is that 4 pin that's out there, but wouldn't you still have to be worried a little bit about a Honitsu over there?
Well, it doesn't matter what you're scared of. They're showing Mungon.
Okay, sure, yes. But I mean, in terms of, what tiles you might be less likely to discard?
Ooh, well, that West is...
Wait a minute.
Interesting. Is there's only one of them out, but yeah, decides I'm not going to use that.
Yeah, it doesn't actually... Wait. Yeah, it doesn't actually improve the value of the hand either.
Oh, no, both were out. That's right. I missed the first discard on the right, so no, it was completely dead.
Oh, yay. That's probably why they took a second, too, was to see how many were out there, and maybe finally caught that last one.
Especially those random wins. So often it's just going to be that first discard, and it's easy to miss. Yeah, interesting choice there on the left. We'll go for the Tanya here.
At least try to, but they need the 4-pin, otherwise they're furry tend.
Well, at this point, you don't care, and the 4-pin's dead. Or the 1-pin's dead, so it's always going to be the 4 if you get Tenpai. And here, yeah, you just Dama. You don't even care.
Well, I mean, I Dama in the sense that, like, I'd want to get out of here if I drew something that I felt was dangerous to Brian.
Well, that's not going to happen because the 4s are completely dead, and the 1s are completely dead. So unless there's some sort of shift, like, say, drawing another 5-pin, which we know is also impossible, that hand isn't going to budge. There's our Tenpai across the way, noting on 5-8-pin.
Yeah, Chrissy not opting to call, good choice there, because that doesn't give Brian another draw.
Yeah, that was definitely a scary hand. We move to East 2 here. Dealer has... This is another one of those hands. There are a lot of ways to play it. 1, 2, 3, Sanshuku. You can also use that 3 as kind of a full around door. You can go Honitsu. And I'd probably, with that 7-mon draw, just go Honitsu, cut the 2-so right away, and just see how it plays. On the... Oh, no! Well, you'd pair this up and it'd be dead, but I don't know that they would have come out if you hadn't cut the first one already.
Right.
On the right, that is a Pinfu type hand. You're just looking basically for a pair there or something to connect to the 8-pin. Across the way, you have 2 Dora, also another pair, but I mean, your dream here is the 6-7-8 Sanshuku Dora 2 would be amazing. And on the left, that's a Pinfu hand. You also have the 1-pin Dora there. It's kind of a floater. The big question that hand is how long are you going to keep it around? Oh, well, that hand across is getting plenty scary. Now Ishan 10 for potentially Richi Pinfu Sanshuku Dora 2.
Yeah.
But you may just
well,
lock in the Apeco. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you were never guaranteed the Shanshoku in this case, so
No.
you confirm the Ipeiko, you at least you're going to get one more Han out of this.
Well, you do have the option, especially if these 9s start popping out, then you may get extra information. But that's not going to be the situation. And I have a very interesting Ishan 10 on the right. Could just go Itsu, cutting maybe 2, 3 so. That's going to be the play.
Christine's been sitting Ishan 10 for a bit now.
A bit of a backfire on that 7-pin. Could also be Ishanten for a Chinitsu at this. Oh
no! What the heck?
Oh, that feels so bad. And you see the Tadashi 6-7-8 for that stable, and you go, what the heck?
Gee.
Meanwhile, Deer's say, I don't know, I don't care, I want this hand over.
And it's going to be over.
And there it is. One Han, and that's one where the other 2 players probably breathe a sigh of relief, not knowing exactly how bad it is, but just you look at that and you go, something weird's going on. And oh, there was.
Richi Dora 2 for Christine. How about it?
Well, Dealer has an amazing hand here. 2 completed shapes and a Dora pair. So you take anything you can get. On the right, I don't know what you even do with that. It feels like a regular type hand, but like I almost sort of brute force June shot. I honestly don't like the 1-mon cut. I would have preferred the 4-pin. Just because it's going to be hard to use almost anything here. So hand's going to be really slow. Across the way, we have the West pair. That looks like a call and go type hand. And on the left, that is a Tanyao type hand. Maybe a 5-6-7 Sanshuku in there.
The thing is, with a hand like Brian's, it's like, yes, you could, if you can play efficiently and get to where you need to go, but it could just take forever. And if you want to finish the hand, to increase the chances, you probably want to be able to call. And so a hand like you're talking about, like Junchan or something like that, at least you can call for that. It's still slow, but you can actually call for that as opposed to trying to hope to draw everything yourself.
Well, the other thing here is, if you draw the 4-mon, then all of a sudden this hand looks like a brilliant plan. but instead it's very likely it's going to be Richie Nomi, bad weight on the 7, so. A bit of a disaster across the way. Decides to cut from the west pair, which is the Yakuhai, and of course rewarded by drawing at the next turn.
Oh.
Well, now he could see the chase. No, he's just going to bail out of it, though. Dealer here, Richidora 2, waiting on 6-mon, 1 pin. The 1 is left in the wall, and there is 1 6-mon, so 2 outs left.
How willing are people here going to fight? Ooh, that 5-mon makes things interesting, but you still are not happy with this at all.
Well, if you get Tenpai, you just Dama here. Especially with the 7 so just kind of dying like this. If you draw the 7 so specifically, then maybe you hit the button thinking the 4 may not be as bad as it might seem. But you've just been holding this Hatsu back the whole time. And he's going to try and work this over towards a 3-4-5 or 4-5-6 Sanshoku, trying to give an incentive to make the hand worth playing. Oh, there's a Dora across the way. And I mean, that's just scary. It's always scary to throw Dora, but that's not only Dora, it's Dora right by the Ricci tile.
Oh my gosh,
it comes out. Ricci, Dora 3.
Oh,
the Aura doesn't matter, but that's a huge win. And Christine, especially that first game, Christine is cruising now.
I was not actually expecting Munchie to ship that Dora at that point.
Well, certainly an expensive hand to deal into. And Christine says, you know what, I'll just take it. And now has a pretty good starting hand here. Potential 6-7-8 Sanshku, potential Itsu. Can accept a Dora regardless. On the right, we have
7-8-9 Sanchoku, actually.
7-8-9 Sanshku, you're right. And I can incorporate the Dora. On the right, I don't know, it also feels kind of like a Junchan type hand. Across the way, it feels like a Pinfu, but it doesn't really matter what the shape is. You have 2 Dora, so it's take anything. On the left, we have a Chun pair, a few other pairs. You actually have 4. Might even want to call the 6 so and try and play this as quickly as possible, but passes on it. And I think if you're going to pass on that, I'm not quite sure what your plan is.
You wouldn't discard the. Yeah, it doesn't. I'm not sure that makes. Because if you're going for the Tanya, that's fine, I guess, but.
Yeah, you'd want that 6. It makes this hand so much more viable. Because you figure you'll be able to call the 2-mon or the 8-pin at some point. Because they're not particularly easy to use. But instead, this hand's going to be really slow. But hey, if you just draw the 2, 3, 4 back to back, now you have a different way to maneuver this hand, I guess. Now, third Dora pulled in across the way.
But they didn't even call the 2-mon there, because then they could have dropped 6-8 so, and then it wouldn't have been as bad. But I guess when you draw the 4-pin, I guess it's fine.
And Ishan 10 on the left, regardless of that 5, isn't going to keep it. I would always keep that 5. The advantage
is so, right?
Yeah. It potentially creates a Suji trap. You don't really like the idea of the Suji on the Ricci, but it also gives you Peiko, and you could end up cutting the 8-pin, 8-pin, or 2-mon, 2-mon for potentially Ricci, Pinfu, Tanyaoi, Peiko. We'll have a monster Ishan 10 across the way.
Yeah, because you think the 5-7 is like, oh, that's not great, but actually you could take the 5, the 6, the 7, or the 8.
It's any of those. You get a good weight on obviously the 2-5-8 because you can reach the 5 waiting on 7-8, but even that's Tenpai. There you go. Just reach the 5 for sure. Yeah, there it goes. Ricci Dora 3 waiting on 7-8-mon. Now, it's of course going to be very hard for those to flow out just because they're right by the Dora. But let's see how many
look at it on the table. Like, how many Manzu have been discarded? Very little.
Well, there's one of them, and it does come out.
Wow.
And Jonathan deals into Ricci Dora 3. So another Richidora 3, this time not dealer, but gets back most of the points that were discarded the previous hand. And nice little win there. We have a bit of a fight here between third and fourth. But in the meantime, we have Brian, who's kind of stayed out of the big fights here, sitting at 30,000 still in East 3 with a mediocre hand. It's not bad. It's not good. You have a floating door, but you have a penchant, a kind of awkward kanchan. The shapes are there. Just doesn't even want the penchant. On the right, well, that's another where you go, do I just want to sell out on Chinitsu? Answer's probably not, but we'll see. Across the way, especially the
7
two-mon
mon
cut.
helped.
Oh, yeah. Now you're actually Ishan 10 and could even potentially upgrade later towards Sun Anko, depending on what gets drawn. Across the way, feels like a Sanshiku type hand. I don't like the 5-pin there because I like Itsu. I don't think the Chun does anything. And 5-pin's Dora. Why are you cutting Dora? But anyway, on the left, ooh, that's a great draw with that 8-mon. Could go 6 and 8 Sanshiku, but I like just playing it standard. Yeah, that's going to be the play. Just going to go for the Richi Nome. You're in first place. It's East 3. You're feeling good about it.
And going back to Brian, I like the fact that he cut the penchant because the hand was going to seem slow anyways. So for me personally, I would have kept the Chun in the Hatsu because if I managed to draw another one, which he did, then I can at least call and go that way. So Brian's hand is now actually probably a lot further than it could have been if they just decided they were going to just discard the honors.
Richi.
Now, there's our Richi on the left. It is Richi Nome. At 4, that's a great tile to call, especially if you're going Shinitsu. This is actually Tenpai. You could throw the 9 and deal in, instead going for the greed, and that is the correct play here, as the weight is 6-9.
Well, judging from the last couple of hands, now that doing that doesn't surprise me now.
And there's Tenpai. We'll have to throw the 3-mon, but I imagine you just take the Atazuke here.
You'd have to.
Oh, there's a Tenpai on the right. What is
Waiting
that?
On
just the 5.
5.
And
it's 6-9 across
feels
the
really bad, but I don't know what else you're going to throw.
So it's 6-9 for both Jonathan and Christine. It's the Hatsu 9-so for Brian. And it's
that's
switch.
That's going to be a switch. You cut the 5. You definitely cut the 5 here. That's a play. This is a weight on 3-6-9 now. If, oh my goodness, if the 9... 3-6-9.
Well, no, all 6s are
yeah,
dead.
because the 6 is dead, but you get the idea. So if dealer draws the 9-mon, and we might see a triple run here. Oh, there's a 3. Deals into the chin. And okay, we now have a new leader. As Yangshi pulls in that Mongon plus all those Richi sticks. And he has a pretty good hand here. Could even potentially go Honitsu with it. If not, just Richi or Richi Haku is pretty good. Like you just play it normally now that you've connected to that 2-4-so on the right. Feels like a Pinfu hand. You have some awkward pairs, though. It's going to be very slow. Across the way, Pinfu type hand, but similarly very slow. And on the left, you do have the East pair, so I think you just kind of call and go with this. It's going to be hard to make anything else out of it. Your only real upgrade is Toy Toy. There is a very distant shot for maybe like Chanta, but it's not worth going for. Meanwhile, dealers, I'll just draw the 3rd Haku myself and be Ishan 10.
Oh my god!
God. Wow!
Oh my
Three-sided weight. Richi Haku.
I'll just fill in my Kanchan and have a 3-sided weight. Thank you.
Edwin having a heart attack over there, it sounds like. But, I mean, that's the power of 3-so. The problem here is the 2-5-8 isn't as good as you might think. The 2 is completely dead. The 5 has 2 left. The 8, though, is what you're looking for, and there are only 2 of those left. So you have a 3-sided weight on turn 5. You figure you have more than 4 outs, but 4 outs is still definitely heavily favored to win this hand.
Yeah, you can't help it because it is a 3-sided weight, and obviously you'll take those no matter what. But yeah, it's on a suit that apparently people seem to be wanting to hoard, so it actually makes it a little bit less good than you'd like.
Meanwhile, we have an East Shun 10 on the left. I mean, if the East comes out, you just call it and jam the 4. Four doesn't feel great, but it is one chance considering the 5s, but isn't going to push it anymore. As I said, I've had enough of this.
Jonathan has to probably take an Itsu slant at this point.
I'm kind of curious why Christine hasn't thrown that 9 pin. Is very scared of it.
It would have to be like a Tonki or Shampon in order for that to work.
Well, you'd be worried about the Shampon potentially because the 6-8 Ricci, but it just feels like it was an extra block that was cut, and that's exactly what it was. Nah, yeah, there goes the 9 anyway. Oh, there's the Sumo.
Finally.
Ricci, Sumo, Haku. No aura, but will be enough to pull another 6,000 net and over 40,000 here. This is an okay hand, not a great one though. You need the 3-so and 2 pin to really get anything from it, but it's a pin fu type hand. On the right, 2 Dora. So the rest of that hand is, well, kind of terrible. And may even try and brute force Kokushi out of this, but I definitely just like calling this. When you have 2 Dora, you don't have to think very hard most of the time. Across the way, that is definitely a Pinfu type hand in the Tanyao. You're getting a 3-4-5 Sanshku in there eventually, or a 2-3-4, depending what happens. On the left, you have that nice little Peiko shape in Mon with the 5-6-7, and potential distant Itsu in So, but I think you're just looking to pair one of those up. And there's the call on the right. Yeah, okay. So
that was expected. I think you could have like hedged Kokushi, but like if you start pairing out some of the honors, then it's just like if I get like a 7-8-9 like that, then I can just call that and just call all the honors. And
I think you just go Chanton now. Forget it. And yeah, that's the play. This is absolutely the play. You say, I don't even need Honitsu. I'd love to call the 1 pin. There's the East. There's the East. Shun 10. I like holding the 1-so for now, because if you draw like 2 or 3-so, you're like, I guess it's better than the 1 pin.
And the other thing is, at least you could have like, tried to represent a Honitsu that way. And so if the 1 pin came out, you could call that and then be like, okay, well now, what do you think I have?
Right. It's obvious. Well, yeah, the East. It's the East.
Yeah. And that's the reason why maybe I would have even kept the 6-so and discarded the 1, because then you could just say, well, this is overflow.
Well, now we're going to see the decision. And I actually think the 3 looks pretty bad on this board. I'd cut the 1-2 back. Just throw the 2 right back.
Okay.
But takes the greedy play here. Definitely hoping for that 3-so. The problem is 3-so is dead right now.
I guess maybe they're hoping it since they discarded the 6, the 3 seems okay, but I find that hard to believe given the discards and what they've called so far, that you wouldn't be worried about that.
Yeah, and that it looks like exactly what it is. It feels like maybe it was just a Chanta shift and they drew into something later, and that's exactly what it is. Meanwhile, across
at least the 1
way,
pin you had a chance to be able to call that.
Well, as it turns out, the 1 is being used, and the other 1 is sitting somewhere really deep in the wall. But it doesn't matter. There's our Sumo. Like, Tanya will end it all. And we now move to South Round. Speaking of South, there's a pair of those in dealer's hand. Not too much value here. You may be able to draw a Dora, but I'm just not really seeing any value here. This feels like a call and go. Maybe a Chi-Toy or a Toy eventually, but I think it's probably 1 Han. On the right, speaking of hands that look like they're probably going to be 1 Han, feels like you have a Chun pair and not much else. Maybe connect a Dora there. Similarly, across the way, Pinfu type hand. They actually have a Dora. So nice upgrade there. Maybe potential upgrade to Itsu later. And on the left, well, There are plenty of ways to play that, but I think the most straightforward is just call the pay and be done with it.
There's a slim chance for something Chanta-ish, especially
Right.
since you're waiting on the Dora and it's a 5-pin. Like, unless you draw it,
Yeah.
I don't imagine somebody discarding it just randomly.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is you're almost going to draw it yourself, which is never a good feeling. Meanwhile, Tenpai on the right, you just take the Tenpai here. It's a terrible penchant, but I mean, it fits.
And it can improve.
Yep. Well, it can't improve a whole lot because you have discarded that 2-so. So even if you use some shift, it could be very difficult. But you can potentially call the 5-mon.
Yeah, and then have a Tonki and then make the Tonki a 2-sided weight somehow. So
Or alternatively, wait on Dora. And you see there on the left is where's the north? I know it should have come out by now. It must be stuck in the wall. It'd be really horrible if someone's using it as a pair, but instead, no, it's just stuck in the wall.
Yeah, and really not wanting to discard that 4-6 pin, and I guess I could see why, considering you've seen 2 4s out there. So it's like, well, if they discarded the 4s, either they're holding the 5 pin or it's actually still out there somewhere.
Meanwhile, all the 7-so are now dead. And honestly, I don't see any reason for it to be cut across the way by Brian, and I don't see a reason for Jonathan to throw it either, given you're likely to end up cut from the 3-mon anyway.
Now, Christine could have actually stepped back a little by keeping that 9 pin and maybe discarding the 8-9.
Well, again, you still have 4-10 problem with that 4-pin.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
So I think you just kind of locked in at this point.
There you are stuck. Yeah. Christine with a big hole. That's Tenpai. Oh no.
Is that Tenpai? No, it's not.
Isn't it? Is it not?
No, it's not.
Oh, darn it. I thought it was.
No. It's close, but not quite. Well, there's our Tenpai for the dealer. I imagine the 6-so comes out. Take the Rionman weight.
No.
Oh no! Got a little too clever there. Pushed the 7-so. Figuring, 6 is going to be a little more dangerous, but the result is that deal's in. So you do lose your last dealer turn, which is never a good feeling when you're in 4th place. Again, that's where this is Jonathan, who cannot really afford to take a 4th in this match. You have so many people biting at your heels, and this would be an absolute disaster. But the dealer
your hand here isn't really going to help you a whole lot either.
Yeah, that's not going to help you at all. The dealer here is Christine, who's probably going to Tanya with this hand. You do have a floating Chun Dora. If that pairs up, you're feeling good. The problem is that Chun is unlikely to pair up because we see all of them. And the important ones are on the right for Brian. And that's very much a call and go hand. Could end up going Chitoy with this if you don't want, if the Chun ends up getting locked. But I imagine it's going to flow out from someone. Across the way, we have a west pair and a south pair. They're both Yakuhai. And that's actually currently an Ishanten, a monster Ishanten. But I think he's good.
Yep.
If the south comes, you absolutely call it and try and turn this into a Honitsu, maybe even 3-sided Honitsu.
Yep.
Oh, but there's the win.
I
don't see how you. Wow, that is so greedy. When you're first place, I think you should take that. And now you feel the immediate regret. And now Furitan waiting on 1-4. So this is turning into a bit of a disastrous result here. And if you would have just cut the 2-pin, then the 4 would have come right out and you'd still be fine. In the meantime, you're starting to sweat.
Here's the thing, too. Christine and Yuanqi both have games in hand to play. So technically, this result's actually good for them. They could have just easily gone 1,000 points out of the rest of the way, finished with what they had because they still have games to play. So, but the other two don't. So I would have been happy just to take the 1,000 because I know I still have more games in hand than the other gut people.
But we have a
Oh,
Tenpai
dear.
on the right, and that is now Mangon Tenpai, Haku Chun, Dora 3, and now across the way, Tenpai waiting on one so. It is a hell weight one so. You definitely cheat that.
Dong.
There's the
No,
8.
a complete disaster. Gets so greedy and is absolutely punished for that greed. Oh, that is an absolute disaster. And if Yongxi ends up demoting, you can look back at that hand. Had the win, great position to go into South 3 with the lead, wouldn't take the win, tries to get a little more value out of it, and ends up dealing into a Mongon with the Dora at that point having not been accounted for. It comes right out. Really rough here. In the meantime, Brian is absolutely thrilled with this result. And Brian is now going to definitely be making
thrilled with his hand.
promotion. Yeah, this is actually Ishunten for Ricci, Tanya, Sananko, or even
Oh,
there you go,
Each.
Ricci, potentially Peiko. Be kind of sad to win on the 6 mod here, but I mean, you just take
Your
it. If it
dealer,
comes,
you just take
probably.
it.
On the right, we haven't even gotten to over the hands. On the right, that's a great starting hand too. Ricci, potential Ipeco, Adora, Pinfu. Like, that's a great hand. And now you're Tenpai, but are you gonna just wait on the 2-pin? Are you gonna Dama? How are you gonna play this one?
Dama this and hope for a better weight somewhere.
That's what I do, and that's gonna be the play here. Across the way, feels like Pinfu hand, but definitely not anything to fight dealer with. Similarly, the same exact situation on the left. Is you just have to wonder, is this hand worth fighting for? And the answer is, well, not really. And the 1 so's fine. You just throw that back. Pushes the more dangerous 3-pin to have a hell weight 1 so weight. I think that was a probably inadvisable. You just throw the safe 1 now, unless you think someone else is ready to chase it down.
Well, either that or you were planning on discarding the
just
3.
Sumo.
Okay.
Ricci, Sumo, Ipeco. No aura, but that's a nice big lead opening up here for Brian. And what's going to happen right now is it
send
looks
everybody
like
under 30, possibly.
Yeah, no, it's starting to look like we're going to see a switch here where Brian is getting in position to promote, and Jonathan may just completely fall out.
And in the meantime, if Yuanxi and Christine end up sub 30 here, even if they're second and third, like this does not help them at all anymore.
No, because they're both under the cut line right now. There's no guarantee the cut line going to stay where it is, and they still have games left, but it's certainly not where you want to be at this point.
Gosh,
But
that's
Brian
Ishunten
here,
already.
it's Ishunten, yeah, Ricci, Tanyao would not be Pinfu. And even Tanya would be optional with a hand like that. Although if you draw the 4-mon, then all of a sudden the hand looks amazing. On the right, ooh, a nice little draw there with a 3-pin. But that's also feel like it should be Ricci Dora most likely. Across the way, that's a Pinfu hand. You'd love the 2, 3, 4 Sanshiku. That's a great draw with that 2-mon. And on the left, that's a Pinfu hand as well, but you really need that 7-so Dora to make much from it.
Home.
The dealer says, you know what? I've had enough, and I really like the 2 so. If you're going to make that call, I really like cutting the 2 so there. You have
You do
so
not want
many
to run
tiles
into
to
furry
cut.
10 issues and stuff like
Yeah,
that. Just
and the
get
2
rid
so
of it.
does nothing for this hand.
Exactly.
There's even potential 3, 4, 5 Sanshiku if you get the right draws.
Oh, there's
There
your
you go.
Tenpai.
There's your Totsu Tenpai on 2, 5-mon and 5 so. I'm going to see a pair up of the Hatsu across the way. I imagine Chu just comes out there. Oh, you feel a bit of regret, but you're never taking the unshot there on the 4. That's just never going to happen. Meanwhile, that hand across the way is starting to look very scary. That is now Ishunten for Ricci, Tanya,
I like the Hatsu discard here.
I agree. Get your not guaranteed. Well, yeah, it is. It's not guaranteed Tanya, but it gives you an option for Tanya, and you're probably not calling for anything but Sanshiku anyway.
Yeah.
And oh no, cuts the 5 so now waiting on the Dora indicator. Wants to pull the Dora in, but that may be a huge mistake as they're all locked up.
Yeah, you didn't need the value here. You just wanted to win the hand.
Hey, you're a dealer. You don't have to worry about that. You would be concerned about someone pawning it, but to me, that's very much a so. Instead, your shape is just awful at this point.
There's no
we may
improvement
see
unless you draw the Dora.
We may see Jonathan absolutely punish this because that 2-mon was your winning tile. That should have been the deal in this turn. So anything else that happens would be a result of getting a little greedy here. When I say a little greedy, I mean incredibly greedy.
Yeah, I have 8-so discard because even if you have a better shape with a 7-8-8, you're still not wanting to discard Dora here.
Right, but similarly, I think Christine should have followed with that 8-so. Maybe get a little greedy for the Sanshku, but to me, that was the best chance to get rid of that very dangerous 8-so, and he saw a Tadashi from the dealer. Unlike the 8-so would deal in there, but it's not a tile I want floating around here.
And order matters.
There's
like,
our Tenpai. Across the way, this is a Riichi, Pinfu, potential Sanshoku, but a huge difference between the 2 and 5-so.
Actually, still 2-2-sos live, and there's one of them.
There's one of them. Is that? Oh, there's the Ipatsu. An absolute disaster for Brian.
Well, we have to see the Roan, right?
Oh no! Was there a disconnect? Is there a misclick? Something weird's going on.
There it is.
Oh, that's one where I guarantee you in the game it feels like he sandbagged you and you're really mad about it. But I don't think there was any ill intent there. It is a Hanuman deal in, though, and that completely switches up everything. And now Christine's
look at the scoreline.
Yeah, everyone is now within 3,700.
Yeesh.
So that completely flips his table on its head and completely flips his division on its head because all of a sudden Brian's not safe. Brian's in danger now because this was the type of game Brian needed to climb with. In the meantime, though, we start here, and dealer has a Tanya type hand, and not too much else, but it feels pretty slow. It's not the type of hand you really want to get. On the right, we have a Haku pair up. You have a floating Dora, so I think you just go. You just call and go. Even maybe Toy or Tanya or even Chanta Dora too. Lots of ways that hand develops. Across the way, that is a Pinfu hand. You love the 2-3-4 Sanshoku. So that's probably the play there. Just go for it. Could even call and just go out to Zuke. Doesn't want to play that way, though. On the left, that is a Tanyo type hand as well. We'll have to cut the 9-mon and the 1-so, though. Ooh, and there's our big Haku draw on the right. Meanwhile, dealer here are just collecting these 5-so, but they don't really do anything else. You get another 4.
Haku, Toy, Dora 2, maybe?
Could even con the 5 at this point. Oh,
how just Haku Toy? Wouldn't that be enough, right? 39?
yeah. I mean, you just take whatever comes. You don't even care.
And
yeah,
2, 8, 9-so? I mean, like, those are edge tiles. You'd love to call those.
I absolutely call this 3-so. I want nothing to do with this hand. Instead, go ahead and wait. We'll see if that gets punished. Oh,
what?
Well, now you can even guarantee Chitoy.
Wait, no, that's not. I mean, well,
next turn. Instead, we'll try and lock in this 1-so. It's actually really bad considering they're locked up on the left. So this could end up in disaster for Jonathan. An absolute monster of a hand that just feels like it's just going to get stuck.
See, because if Brian needs to pitch a pair, I mean, if they're going to go for some type of Tanya-ish hand.
Yeah, then the 1-sos
might come out after all.
Well, the other thing is Christopher could just draw the 7-so and just Dama on the Ipeco Chanta Haku. But you just take Tenpai. You don't think very hard about this one. It is Toy Haku, possible Sananko on Sumo.
The 8-sos are live.
Yep. The 1-so are locked in that hand to the left. You have to cheat that 4. You have to cheat it.
1
Oh, doesn't take Tenpai. You could have cut the 8mon there and waited on another 4-so.
And you run into possible issues if you draw the, because you can't use the 9mon.
半
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh, no.
Oh no!
4
Oh,
Toy, Haku, an absolute disaster here.
we said that
As
a lot.
Jonathan just pulls everything together and steals a first from nowhere. In second place, we have Christine getting a 6.9. Nice. But could have looked for a little bit more. And it's just tragedy for Brian, who was just cruising and just couldn't get it together there at the end. A couple disastrous plays, got so greedy, ended up punished for it. And then in fourth place, talking about greed, Guangxi with ended up fourth, but just didn't take that win, and everything just spiraled down after that.
Oy.
Oh, that is a congratulations to Jonathan. You're definitely going up now, but that was exciting.
Yeah, there was a lot of action there, and a lot of times in which we perhaps thought that things were going to go one way, and certainly we ended up getting a bit surprised along the way.
No, I think we are going to head over to an A2 game now.
Actually, no. It looks like they're actually. Well, are they still? They're still in progress.
They should still be on their second game.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, they started 20 minutes ago, so we'll probably be right around South 1 if they're at average length.
But they're only playing 2 games, so we'll be catching the tail end of this one.
And we see here that is Matthias on the right is dealer. Currently, Atazuke needing the south here. Would just be South Nomi, but it's completely locked up. It's never coming out from Joe's hand. Can't imagine that's happening. Meanwhile, Joe's sitting here drooling over the possible dice again. Across the way is Huang, who is our current ARML champion for the first year. Currently trying to stave off demotion and getting at least some positive in this game. And on the left is Kaz, who I believe won the previous game in this series and is looking to solidify the position here. Hand isn't great, though, and currently sitting at 12,000, so a long way back.
1
Ooh, what happens if that tune gets drawn by Joe? I mean, we know the weight is dead at that point, but your eyes just can start getting really, really big.
I mean, couldn't you have even discarded that West? And if you really, actually, no, you already discarded the 8, so never mind.
I don't care. I'd still cut the West. Because if you draw 7-so or 9-so, you get Chanta.
That's true.
Now, you've actually lost quite a bit of efficiency here. The West only connects to the West. So how many Wests are out? Well, there are 2 out that I already see, so you'd be waiting on the last one anyway. So if you pair it up, you still have to have the South. So I think it's a pretty big efficiency issue. Meanwhile, I see Ishunten on the right. I think Kaz is just completely stuck. Cannot throw that tune ever. Well, okay, there's your Shaw. Does pair up. Get the last one in the entire wall. And now with that tune coming out, everyone knows it's Tenpai. Meanwhile, Tenpai on the right as well. The 6-0 doesn't feel particularly safe, though. The 8-mon feels okay to me, at least. We'll just jam the 6-0, though, waiting on 5 8-mon. Oh, no! There's the tune, and there's the 8-mon, so it wouldn't matter. But it is going to deal in for Tanya Dora 1. That's one where Joe takes a look at it, goes, "Oh no, I could have bet," and then the deal that extra. Okay, never mind. I don't care. But Huang here is sitting at 36,400 in second place. Decent starting in here. Potential Ricci Pinfu, maybe a 456 Sanshku along the way. I'll say Dora. On the right, we have a Chun pair. That definitely feels like a Chanta hand. Sanshku with the 789 feels pretty good. Like I really like that hand. Across the way of a South pair and not too much else in terms of value. I think you're just trying to keep in third over 30,000 a hand like that. Ooh, nice 8-pin draw there on the right for Kaz. On the left, also kind of feels Chanta, but I'm just going to play it like a regular hand. You have the Haku pair. The problem is every other tile in your hand is stuck in a Kanchan type shape other than the two.
Yeah, and I mean, you're already sitting Ishanten anyways for a Chontador 1, so there's not really much incentive to call, I guess.
Well, and there's so much difference between a Chanta that's open and a Chanta that's closed.
Yeah, especially when you're the only one sitting under 30 and you need the points, even if you're lost dealer.
And Joe just says, you know what? We're not going to even use the South. Well, let's not even bother.
I mean, considering where Joe's placement is right now, I mean, he's fine taking a
if
zero
Joe gets
third.
a positive third, that's perfectly acceptable. Ooh, now that's a big draw. The problem is the Haku is Mochi Mochi. But Matthias can't possibly know that's what's happened. The question is how greedy and how addicted that Sanshku. Ooh, is just going to keep the Sanshku. Ends up cutting from the Chun pair, considering one's out.
This is a pretty hard committal for that to incorporate the door and hopefully get the Chanta out of this.
You desperately have to have the 1-pin for this to have been worth it. And we can see there is one pin left of the wall. Could Chi that 7 and drastically improve this shape. Would still be Ishanten, though, so it will not be taken. Ooh, and there's a huge draw. I think you just cut the... Oh, wait, what do you cut? Yeah, it cuts the 4 here, going with the Ryan.
I think I would have minded if they...
No, you can't really cut the 1.
No, you can't.
You want to, but it just doesn't make any sense to.
It doesn't. Because then you have to cut 2 4-pin or something like that. And
especially with a 3 so out, you figure the 4 is not pairing up. I like that 4-mon cut. The more I look at it, the more I really
that
like
makes
that
more
cut.
sense. Definitely makes more sense.
Meanwhile, Joe says, well, if I just draw a 4 or a 7-pin, I have a monster. If I draw a 5 or a 6, I also have Son Anko potential. Ah, there's your 4. That's a bit unfortunate for Huang.
Yeah, that's a little bit like awkward because you can't call or anything because of that 1 pin, and it's like you end up getting you end up getting a little bit tied up because of it.
And Kaz is just stuck in Ishanten hell.
Got another Dora, so I guess. Oh, and another Dora.
No, never mind. You could even Dama this. You had Dama for the Sanchugu Dora 3. We're getting this random 7 so that is. There goes! And that 8,000 is a huge boost, so not out of it yet. Kaz gets a direct hit, and now Huang says, I guess I'll take first then. Thanks, I'm glad I dodged that. And Kaz has a hand here. It isn't that great, though. Feels kind of like a Tanya, but still have its pin chun to get rid of. Now just a Pinfu hand. It feels really slow. On the right, there's the South pair. She could call and go, except there is one across the way. Yeah, I guess the South could come out. And the question is, do you want it? And I think the answer is, especially with a door in this hand, you could potentially go Dortonki. Seems good enough for me. Across the way, that is a Pinfu type hand, but the shapes are awful. You also have 3 pairs. On the left, we have 2 Dora, so you're just looking to call that and go with this hand.
Is slowly getting better here. That 8-pin draw is nice.
Yes, dealer here working towards the 678 Sanshoku.
Yeah, I know you want to incorporate the North because it's Dora, but again, your dealer just win, baby.
Well, the issue here is we know it would be called on the left, but you can't yet. You have a bit of a backfire with it too, so, but again, you can't have known that. The thing is, all the door are currently locked up. The question is, who chickens out first?
Huang's not going to chicken out with that 2 doors.
No, Huang, that's never leaving that hand under any circumstances. I could see it from Joe. I could see it from Kaz. Absolutely.
I think that South hold by Joe is not meant to con later, but just to be like, if somebody's Tenpai, I could just go ahead and discard this. Because, never mind. Okay, I was wrong. Sorry.
On for a flow. Pole. And because they did terminal pole, now all of a sudden everyone should be very leery of the pay. Like, I think Kaz wanted to discard it, but now it may just get stuck in that hand. Nope, never mind. There's the pole, and then it's now Tenpai for a Mongon on 1 Formon. It is Dora. Meanwhile, D-Learner has 2 Dora as well. Feels like a pawn cut the 6-7. Nope, cuts the 5, takes the very wide ace on 10. There's the deal, and Kaz gives back the 8,000, but this time to Huang, who's going to get a pretty big first out of this. And we do have 3 people over 30K, so Huang gets 29.4, Matthias gets 8.3, Joe with 0.3, and Kaz takes minus 38. Even with that dumb Mongon with the Sunshkudora 3.
Just to make sure that these standings here that you see on the table is not the B2 league anymore. This is the A2 league.
Yes, this is A2. We just haven't
Um,
gotten the graphic updated right now. But yes, Joe is currently in the lead in the entire division. And for Kaz, this kind of puts him right around the middle in 10th place. But a big win for Huang, who is still below the cut line, but that's going to help significantly. And we also have Matthias, who is above the cut line, but certainly within range of being pulled back in.
And this actually being their second game, not their third game, they have 2 games left to play. So Huang still has more time to try to get out of that out of the demotion position. Kaz still has some time to get at least. Well, I guess at this point, maybe you're just trying to hold on, make sure you don't lose any more points, possibly, because it might be a little bit of an ask to try to get into that, like, say, top 7 range.
Right. So going to be a bit of a distance there, but we didn't talk about it because we kind of jumped in the middle of the action. But the first game in the series was Kaz with 22.8, Matthias 7.6, Joe +1. So Joe ends up with 2 positive thirds. And in last place was Huang with minus 31.4. So Huang at least mitigates most of that damage and ends up with a net of -2 across the 2 games.
Yeah, and it still is within range of getting out of the demotion zone, which was really wide, all things considered, because you have so many people that are in the negatives that could easily fall into that 16th and 17th positions, or conversely, those people in the 16th and 17th positions easily get out of that position. I mean, even somebody like Patrick with a good final round could find themselves out of the demotion zone as well. So there's actually quite a bit to play for still for everybody.
Yeah, and with that, I think that is all the game for tonight. Relatively short stream today. But any closing thoughts there, Ed, before we wrap it up?
Well, it may have been short, but I mean, if you could tell by the both of us, there's a lot of action to go along with it. So I think any more of that, and I think we both would be exhausted.
There was a lot of greed, especially in that first series. Some of it paid off, some of it backfired, but that's what greed does. So with that, this is when I do obligatory plugs: YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, etc. You know the deal by now. So with that, this is Korak along with Edwin wishing you a good night.
Have a good night, everyone.